Now that we are familiar with the graphical interface of Firebase, which is the Firebase console, let us now discuss another interface for Firebase, which is the Firebase CLI, or Command Line Interface. With Firebase CLI, we use a terminal or command prompt to run commands to be able to work with Firebase's services. And to be able to use Firebase CLI, we must install it first using npm. npm stands for Node Package Manager, and it is shipped with Node.js installation. Luckily, we already have installed Node.js from the previous lessons, but if you haven't installed it yet, make sure to watch the Essential Tools lesson for installation guide. To install Firebase CLI, open a terminal or CMD and run the command npm install-g firebase-tools and wait for the installation to finish. And to confirm if the installation has succeeded, use the command firebase-B. If you see this result, then your installation is fine. Every time you want to use a Firebase command, you must start with the word Firebase. And to list all available Firebase CLI commands, you may type Firebase, help, or just use Firebase. And as you can see, this is the list of commands. And to read about a specific command, you can type Firebase help, and then you may type the name of the command you want to read on. In this example, we will try to list the information for login command. So these are the information for the login command. So let's actually try to log in our Firebase CLI to our Firebase account. For this, make sure you have internet connection. Let's type Firebase login. Then just press N, and then it will open a browser and will ask you to select a Google account you want to log in. Just allow, and we're done. We can close the browser. If it does not open a browser, you may copy this link returned by the command and paste it on a browser. But if you want to log out instead, then you can type Firebase logout. Now let's move on to the more useful commands. Again, we can list Firebase CLI by typing Firebase, and let's try Firebase projects list, which, as you can see, lists all the projects that we have in the projects page in Firebase console. For this next part, we will no longer be using the CMD, and we will also be needing our project-based code that we made in the previous lessons. So for that, we will be using VS Code to manage our code and to run Firebase commands on the integrated terminal. So let's open Visual Studio Code. And here we can see our project open. And again, if you don't see a terminal here, you can press Ctrl backtick to toggle it. And then let's use Firebase init for us to initialize the hosting service of Firebase. So once you run that, press Y to proceed. And then let's choose the option configure files for Firebase hosting by using arrow keys, and then press space to select it, as you may have seen in this instruction. And then press enter to finish our selection. And if you have existing project, you can select the first option. But if you don't have an existing project, you can create a new project here. But since I have an existing project, I will select this one and press enter. And I'm going to select the only project that we have. We're going to use this as our folder, since we have here in our code that our folder is this. So press enter. We can press Y, and then just no on this one, and let's not overwrite our file. And as you can see here, the command created two files, the Firebase RC and then the firebase.json. On the Firebase RC, we can see the project details, and for the firebase.json, you can see all the configurations for each of the Firebase services. Right now, all we can see is the Firebase hosting, since it's the only one that we have selected earlier. And moving on, now that we have configured hosting, we can actually deploy our code to Firebase hosting now. To do that, we will use the command firebase deploy, and that's it. That's how simple it is. We just need to wait for the process to finish. And let's check the URL that we have received. Just press Ctrl and click on the link in the terminal. And it's here. This is the application we have deployed. So let's open our DevTools. And as you can see, it works properly. Let us now go to our Firebase console to check our hosting page. On the navigation sidebar, click on Hosting. And you will see that we have now a dashboard showing our application that we deployed earlier. To prove that it really is our app that has been deployed, let's modify our index.html. Go to our disk and open the index.html. We will use the tag h1 for us to write our message that we can see in our website. Take note that this tag has an opening tag and a closing tag, and within it is the content that you want to display. And additional information that this tag can go up to h6, and the bigger the number, the smaller the text is, so h1 being the biggest heading while h6 being the smallest. Let's actually try all of them. A cool trick in VS Code is line duplication. To do that, put your cursor on the line that you want to duplicate and then press all together, Shift, Alt, and then arrow down. And to select repeating character sequence, what we can do is select the sequence and then press Ctrl D until you have selected all you want. So let's change all of this so we can use all of the heading tag. So now for sure this is a good indicator if our app has really been deployed, but if you really want, you can even put your name here for you to see it for yourself. Again, let us deploy using Firebase deploy. And make sure to save your file first, obviously, and then let's run the command. If you do not see any changes, try to clear the cache of your browser first, then reload the page. And that's it. We now have successfully deployed our app, although it doesn't have any functionalities, but on the next modules, we will be discussing about the functionalities we can add to our site.